Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between Bretonnia, who's going to be led by King Crazy Eyes, and the Greenskins, who are going to be led by a rare sighting indeed. Looks like it's going to be GRIMGOR Ironhide. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So as far as the build goes, we do have a front line of the Foot Squires, who I feel like are okay in the Greenskin matchup. They're going to be able to perform relatively well against anything that isn't a Black Orc, so if you're looking at Savage Orcs and Orc Boys and Goblins, their bonus versus infantry is going to be quite helpful, and their 70 armor definitely helps them. Still think they lose to Savage Orcs, and especially with the wall going off and Ere We Go and the Bonewood Staff that you often see from Warzog, they're probably going to get pounded, but for the most part, I feel like they're, by Bretonian standards, a very durable choice here in the front line. So in total, we do have 3 groups of the Foot Squires, and also if they do go with Black Orcs, it's really nice to have that extra armor piercing. Because again, it can be a little bit tough to get those effective cycle charges, and oftentimes I don't bring Questing Knights in this matchup. So here in the front, 3 Foot Squires, we do also have a Damsel with the Lore of Beasts. She's going to be bringing a Flock of Doom, which is very good against Greenskins. There tends to be blobs of very low tier infantry, and Nasty Skulkers are very common in this matchup. You can see my opponent has, let's see, Orc Boys, Skulkers, Savage Orcs, and I think he has some Savage Orc Biggins in the back, so the Flock of Doom is going to be very cost effective against all those types of infantry. On top of that, we're going to be trying out the Amber Spears. Not something I use terribly often. I feel like the cast time on it is just like an hour. It just takes forever to go off, but nonetheless, we're going to be trying the Amber Spear to shoot the Lords and the Casters and different things like that. In the back here, we do have a couple groups of Peasant Archers, which I feel like are very, very good in this matchup. So we have the Peasant Bowmen with the Pox Arrows, and basically you just shoot Savage Orcs. If they have Goblin Archers who are very lightly armored, the Peasant Bowmen can actually trade pretty effectively because they have, I think, 160 range, and Goblin Archers, I don't know if he has any, but yeah, typically you see like the Rusty Arrows and things like that, and you're often going to see more groups of Magi Marauders who have 100 range, so having those Goblin Archers, or not Goblin Archers, those Peasant Archers here in the back is very, very useful. On top of that, up in the skies, we have King LOUEN. LOUEN's definitely very powerful against Greenskins. Greenskin Lords can definitely get gooned pretty quickly. However, GRIMGOR is a pretty stalwart fellow over here. He does have 120 armor and 45 melee defense. I mean, he's going to last a little bit longer than like Warzog will in a straight fight. Granted, he can't run if he does get into a bad fight. But yeah, the King LOUEN's pretty good against Greenskins. He causes terror, he's durable, he heals himself. And picking King LOUEN kind of allows you to explore other areas of magic, so you don't have to rely on Lore of Life because he heals himself with the Blessing of the Lady, which is very cool. Over here, we do have a bit of a cockfight already as the Knights of the Realm do intercept these Goblin Wolf Rider Archers, and I do have 2 groups of the Knights of the Realm. They're very good in this matchup. They're shielded, so against Greenskin Skirmisher Cav, they can do pretty well. They trade very effectively with like Orc Boy Biggins, and honestly, with the charge bonus of 68, they can get some pretty good engagements against infantry. So Knights of the Realm, a very, very cost-effective choice in this matchup. And we have 3 Knights Errants in total. I think 2 Knights Errants and the Defenders here, which are the Arwars, and these guys hit like trucks. I mean, I don't know what it is about them, but when they get those charges against like lightly armored targets, it just feels like they do vastly more damage than some other models. Maybe it's something with their like collision mechanics. I don't know. Knights of the Realm here, we got some mounted yeomen going around the back, and just men-at-arms in reserve. So the Greenskins are typically just going to pound your front line out. So having reserves in the back to pull forward once your front line buckles is very effective. So we do have a couple men-at-arms in the back, and also some spearmen at arms to defend against Spider Riders and all that kind of stuff. So for my opponent's force, it looks like it's a very anti-cav force. He has a ton of Nasty Skulkers, a ton of Biggins. Well, the Orc Boys in the front line are going to be the main meat, but Savage Orc Biggins in the front line. So he's probably looking to get Nasty Skulkers, smoke bomb me down, and then engage with the Biggins back here. And I think he probably has Foot of Gork. He does. GRIMGOR is going to be leading the Frontal Charge with some Orc Boys, but yeah, it's mostly Savage Orc Biggins. That's really the meat of his army in terms of the gold spent. So guys, without further ado, let's get the show on the road. So in the front, we're going to be doing a triple Frontal Charge. So these Knight Errants are going to be charging in. Alas, there are some Nasty Skulkers here, but I do pull back at the last second when I see them, but he still does get me in a pretty good Smoke Bomb effect. So Smoke Bomb has a massive slowing effect. You can see these guys are going to be at 8 speed right now. That is crazy. They're literally waddling to the Smoke Bomb. Incredibly powerful here from the Skulkers. So they're going to be coming in with the Prison Shanks. However, I do respond with my Peasant Archers. They're going to be dropping some Poison Arrows here. You can see slowing down the Savage Orcs to 29, so I'm just trying to get away the best I can. On the other side, we do get a pretty good charge as well. Those Knight Errants do charge in and lay a little bit of a hammering on these Night Goblins. But the Skulkers are here, and the Smoke Bomb is going off, so my opponent definitely outplays me with the Smoke Bombs here. But they're just Knight Errants. It's not the end of the world, and at the very least, it does bait out the Wa, right? So my opponent was probably looking to kill my Knight Errants very quickly here with that increased melee attack and the charge bonus and all that other good stuff. But it's also not a bad thing, right? Knights of the Realm. This is actually really bad right here. Knights of the Realm getting caught down is rough because they're expensive, but the Knight Errants taking the damage on those guys isn't really the end of the world. So the fighting is underway, and the archers are going to be shooting in, just laying that withering fire into the Savage Orc Biggins. King LOUEN, in the meantime, is just flying overhead, and the mounted yeomen in the back are going to be chasing down some Goblin Wolf Riders, and I also had my Knight of the Realm chasing down his skirmishers over here. But realizing I can't catch these guys, I'm just trying to head off the other ones and see if I can get behind his army after that. But the frontline engagement is underway, so the Knights of the Realm here, or Knight Errants, are going to be charging over the hill, and now they have the support of the Foot Squires, and they get a pretty good lancing charge here on these Greenskins. The rest of the force is about to be underway. The Orc Boys are going to be engaging against Foot Squires, and it's not often you can say that Foot Squires are going to be winning an engagement, but they definitely will beat Orc Boys in the front. So the defenders, who I did have in reserve, and thankfully I was able to pull them back before a smoke bomb effect, are going to be charging into the front. They're going to be hammering home against these Greenskins, doing some pretty good work. However, my opponent has done a really good job just keeping these nasty Skulkers mixed in with all his infantry formations. Means that he has Smoke Bomb, he has Perpetual Armor Piercing, and Skulkers perform very well against cav units, so I really like that play from my opponent. In the meantime, though, the Peasant Archers are just raining hell down on these Savage Orc Biggins. King LOUEN has engaged as well to overwhelm this flank, so there was a Knight Errant charge. King LOUEN came in. The Sword of Corone has been popped as well, lowering melee defense and armor. And hopefully Louis will be able to do pretty well here. I mean, he's definitely going to tear out a lot of these Greenskins, and I think the poison is really starting to add up here. GRIMGOR, however, I got to be careful. Here we go, going down right there. You can see nasty Skulkers pouring forward, Orc Boys pouring forward with Here We Go. So a lot of very aggressive Greenskins right here. My Peasant Archers are going to be switching onto the back, shooting at Forest Goblin Spider Riders and Skulkers, so definitely paying their dues. Over here you can see Men-at-Arms actually holding surprisingly well, but I think that's because the Savage Orc Biggins are kind of like stuck in the back of the formation here. So the Peasant Archers still shooting in, taking out nasty Skulkers, switching onto the Skirmishers like I said. What's really great about this battle so far is my front line hasn't buckled. I think baiting out that early wall was very useful, and on top of that, I'm able to keep my reserves for a very long time. So the Peasant Archers haven't really taken any damage. They're free firing, and even if my front line does start to break, which it is here in the middle, you can see these Foot Squires are going to break up for sure. I have some Men-at-Arms which I can throw in, and they're going to last, a decent amount of time. So the Knights are basically just cycle charging. In the distance, I think my Knights of the Realm were continuing to chase off Skirmishers of these mounted yeomen. So the mounted yeomen catch the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers, and these Knights of the Realm, which was a bit of an expensive investment to chase off Skirmisher cav, they are able to chase those guys off the battlefield, and now they're going to be coming back to the main battle. So the battle's very close. GRIMGOR Ironhide is he's just kind of cleaving, having a good old time, taking out the defenders here, putting them down to about 31 models. So GRIMGOR's doing some work, but yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, LOUEN is usually very impervious. He can just go after Greenskin Lords and do whatever he wants. But with GRIMGOR, I was kind of like, all right, I'm just going to kill everything else and leave him for last. But yeah, right here, King LOUEN does get a very good engagement here on this pig. So you can see the Orc Shaman having a really, really bad time. He's at 7 leadership. He takes a massive beating. But a very good smoke bomb from my opponent. So it's going to allow some scary stuff to happen. The Savage Orcs are rushing in. You can see GRIMGOR is going to be rushing in as well. King LOUEN pops the Lion's Shield just in case there's going to be any foul magic going down. But he does get that nice little charge right there, and he's able to hit that Orc Shaman. In the meantime, I'm just casting Flock of Dooms on all of these blobs. I did pull in the Knights of the Realm to kind of help buffer this formation, which was buckling. But in the back, there's a lot of routing Greenskins. And now the bounce of power, like I said, very, very even. But when you're in matchups like this, especially against like low leadership factions like the Greenskins, you want to be chasing these guys down, right? He has Skulkers here. He has so much power left. I mean, 36 Biggins, this is a lot of stopping power. And if they came back and were able to rally, they could easily clean up like these Foot Squires and these Knights, for example. So I'm going to be grabbing the Knights of the Realm and basically just chasing them all off the battlefield. You really have to take advantage of the low leadership here on the Greenskins. So Knights of the Realm coming in for a fat charge right now. They're going to be right into those Orc Boys doing some beautiful work. And you can see the horse are just being rode down by the chivalrous Knights of Bretonnia. Definitely very happy about this backfield engagement, but that is a lot of stuff to drive off the battlefield. In the mainline fight, the bounce of power is coming back into my favor. You can see King LOUEN just going in on this Orc Shaman, doing a ton of work. Stand Your Ground is keeping him going, but negative 57 leadership, negative 46. He's definitely going to be going down. LOUEN doing some beautiful work, able to take out that Orc Shaman, and now getting rid of the magic is going to be pretty huge. I think one of the main reasons why the battle is starting to go very well is because these Peasant Archers have just been saturating their fire within Savage Orcs and squishy targets this entire battle. And a lot of people don't expect Peasant Archers like in this matchup, for example, because Greenskins do have a lot of like backline harass tools, but I really think that Peasant Bowman Archers are incredibly powerful in this matchup. I mean, they just pay their dues for sure. You can see the Savage Orcs just getting melted by that arrow fire. Over here, the Brave Sons of Bretonnia, the Spearmen at Arms and Men at Arms are actually able to fend off the Goblins just with sheer numbers. And I don't have to like the Feign Enchantress to like heal them and kind of buff up their or the enemy's melee defense or nerf the enemy's melee defense with Mist of the Lady, but nonetheless the sheer numbers of these Bretonians doing pretty good, especially with the support of Flock of Doom. The Wa is going to be going down for my opponent for the second time, giving him a bit of a second resurgence. The Knights of the Realm are definitely doing a very good job just chasing these guys off, and everywhere I see something I'm just like, all right, let's go clean these guys up, let's clean them up. And they're up to 125 kills right now, which is very good. So you can see these orcs being rode down by the Knights of Bretonnia, which is definitely one of the more thematic looking things in the game for sure. So in the mainline fight, it's looking pretty grim for the Greenskins. The Night Goblins are still fighting tooth and nail. Obviously, these are the AP Cloonies, if we're not mistaken, or I think it's actually the Warlords boys. I can't quite remember, but for some reason, when you mouse over them, you can't like, it just says Night Goblins and has the ROR symbol. It doesn't say what they're called, but I'm pretty sure it's the Warlords boys. But they are unbreakable, so they're going to be fighting. But for the most part, King LOUEN is in a duel with GRIMGOR. GRIMGOR's a little bit outmanned here. I mean, I think LOUEN is just objectively like stronger in most ways. I mean, 56, 45, or 50. I mean, I guess GRIMGOR hits harder. 70, 45, 500. Yeah, I guess the mobility and the fact that King LOUEN regenerates and has all of these different debuffs like the Sword of Corone just makes him so much better. So right now I actually pull back. I wanted to get an Amber Spear and kind of see how much damage it would do. So GRIMGOR is at 1600 HP. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I don't think it was an overcast, but that does about 400 damage, which isn't terrible. Amber Spear just takes forever to go off here. So GRIMGOR is going to be buckling as King LOUEN, the noble king of Bretonnia, comes in with a steel chair and is able to finish off GRIMGOR's army. So the Goblins are just going to be fighting to the bitter end, but I definitely think the Peasant Bowmen were the MVPs there. The Knights did a pretty good job. The Frontal Charges were very effectively countered by my opponent. That Frontal Charge with Knights of the Realm usually works pretty well. Even against like Black Orcs, it'll stall them up and slow them down. Against Orc Boys and Goblins, but really having those massive amounts of Nasty Skulkers was, a lot of pressure, right? He was able to really pin down my Knights Errants in the beginning. But actually the Foot Squires were really solid because he didn't have like Black Orcs or Elite Infantry. So the Foot Squires were able to just kind of grind through things, which was really, unexpected, right? The Peasant Archers were able to really just punish the Savage Orcs and of course the flanking pressure of the Knights of the Realm, and the cleanup was really good. But LOUEN, also very solid here. He was able to come in, terror route, kill the caster. I mean, he was very impactful in that battle. And the Sword of Corone is obviously going to help Men-at-Arms fight quite a bit. So yeah, I felt like Flock of Doom was okay as well. So for my opponent's army, it was very good anti-cap stuff. I think the the Nasty Skulkers did a pretty good job at just kind of pinning down my Knights and causing problems in that respect. And yeah, I mean, Savage Orc Biggins, one thing about the Savage Orc Biggins I noticed this game is that they were a little bit stacked up on top of other troops. So they would be like stacked up on top of Skulkers and Orc Boys, whereas the Orc Boys had engaged first. So the problem being is that the Orc Boys and the Skulkers were doing most of the fighting, and the Savage Orcs didn't really get like a clean fight. They were kind of like trickling in, and only a couple of their models were fighting. I think if the Savage Orcs had been like flanked up and around or used a little bit differently, they could have been super impactful. I mean, a Savage Orc Biggin will annihilate a Foot Squire, for example, right? So maybe the Orc Boys should have pulled back and let them do the fighting. It's hard to say, but I felt like the Savage Orc Biggins just didn't get effective engagements, and that was one of the bigger issues. But aside from that, I like the Skulkers. The build definitely has potential, and I think, pending the circumstances, could have done very well here. But obviously, GRIMGOR isn't the most competitive choice. My opponent probably having some fun with that, but yeah, GRIMGOR's, I mean, he'll stand and fight, and against Bretonnia, I can see him having a bit of a niche because he has good armor piercing against Cav, he has really high mass now, and it's hard to snipe him, right? And typically Bretonnia is going to try and snipe your Greenskin Lords with, King LOUEN, and once they get sniped, the game's over, right? For the most part. But with GRIMGOR fighting here, I guess it gives you really good kind of staying power in the main line. And yeah, I mean, you get more WAs, right? When you're using GRIMGOR, he's going to be fighting, you're going to be recharging WA more often, whereas with like Wurzog, for example, it's a little bit tougher. But yeah, I definitely see the niche of GRIMGOR in terms of like getting that perpetual WA, and if you're worried about your Lord being sniped against a faction without Lore of Death, he's going to maybe be an okay choice. So again, very well played in my opponent, Flying Taco. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Bretonnia showdown. And guys, we will see you all next time. Take care.